Live to me, baby. God damn it. I'm so goofy. Okay. I literally can't help being goofy. I literally can't help being goofy. Okay, where's my live? Where we at? Come on. Come on. I gotta get my chat open. Where are we at? Come on. I know I'm live, right? I'm live. Right? Surely I'm live. Surely. Oh yeah, there it is. Thank God. Okay. Muted, and I'm keeping the stream open on the other monitor this time so I know if it ends. Because that's what I want to do. I want to know if it ends. You know what I mean? All right. It is 7 p.m. now. What do I got to do before I start? I got to turn off my fan. Turn off my fan. Should I post this to Snapchat or to Instagram? Because nobody ever watches me. Maybe one of my friends will. Let's try that out. Why not? Is that a good selfie? Do I get the book in the selfie? We having fun in here. Nah, I'm gonna stop trying so hard. Nobody gives a shit. Alright, let's get the link. Let's get the link to my YouTube channel. Boom. Boom. Alright. We did that. Should I do TikTok too? Why not? Why not? Boom. I can't post a link like I can on fucking mention poll hashtag donation. Yeah, you can't even post a fucking link. We'll just do it because why not? Live on YouTube. All right. We did everything we can to advertise my stream. What else can a guy do? You know what I mean? Less pressure this way, anyways. But now I'll know if the stream stops working because I have it on this monitor over here. I'll see. I will notice. Hopefully I notice. All right. I think we're ready. You just talk to yourself in a room. You sometimes, that's just how life is. It's just how life goes. It's just how it is for people like me. Oh. One sad thing about this stream time is I miss the sunset. It will be setting soon, but I'm going to be staring at a book as opposed to the sunset. But I might be able to get a glance of it. All right. I think we're good. I think we're ready. Putting that there. All right, so if anyone's there, last week we tried to read, but the stream ended, and I didn't realize until I was an hour and 10 minutes into the read. I finished chapter 9 and was reading chapter 10, but I wasn't live, and I didn't know. So we're restarting it. So this is the first time in the whole stream where I will have had practice on the chapter, which may mean it's better. Might not. Let's be real. Okay. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and go for it. All right. We got to start. We got to practice the first sentence. Bree was the chief village of Breeland. Bree, yeah. All right. Chapter 9. At the sign of the Prancing Pony. Bree was the chief village of Breeland, a small inhabited region, like an island in the empty lands round about. Besides Bree itself, there was Staddle on the other side of the hill, Combe in a deep valley a little further east. Combe in a deep valley a little further eastward, and Archet on the edge of the Chetwood. Lying round Bree Hill and the villages was a small country of fields and tame woodland, only a few miles broad. Try to avoid the mouth noise. The men of Bree were brown-haired, broad, and rather short, cheerful, and independent. They belonged to nobody but themselves. But they were more friendly and familiar with hobbits, dwarves, elves, and other inhabitants of the world But they were more familiar and friendly with hobbits, dwarves, elves, and other inhabitants of the world about them than was, or is, usual with big people. According to their own tales, they were the original Dude, so I swear to God, something about being live just makes it harder to read. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. The pressure, the heat, the desire to not fuck up, making me fuck up more. All right, where are we at? According to their own tales, they were the original inhabitants and were the descendants of the first men that ever wandered into the west of the middle world. Somebody just started blasting their radio right outside my fucking window. Okay, we're good. I want the window open so I'm not hot. According to their own tales, they were the original inhabitants and were the descendants of the first men that ever wandered into the west of the middle world. Few had survived the turmoils of the elder days, but when the kings returned again over the great sea, they had found the Bree men still there. And they were still there now, when the memory of the old kings had faded into the grass. In those days, no other men had settled dwellings so far west, or within 100 leagues of the Shire, but in the wild lands beyond Bree, there were mysterious wanderers. The Bree folk called them rangers, and knew nothing of their origin. They were taller and darker than the men of Bree, and were believed to have strange powers of sight and hearing, and to understand the languages of beasts and birds. They roamed at will southwards and eastwards, even as far as the Misty Mountains. But they were now few and rarely seen. When they appeared, they brought news from afar. Pause. And told strange, forgotten tales, which were eagerly listened to, but the Bree folk did not make friends of them. I don't know if you can hear this, but there were also many families of hobbits in Breeland, and they claimed to be the oldest settlement of hobbits in the world, one that was founded long before even the Brandywine was crossed and the Shire colonized. They lived mostly in Staddle, though there were some in Bree itself, especially on the higher slopes of the hill, above the houses of the men. The big folk and the little folk, as they called one another, were on friendly terms, minding their own affairs in their own ways, but both rightly regarding themselves as necessary parts of the Bree folk. Nowhere else in this world was this peculiar but excellent arrangement to be found. The Bree folk, big and little, did not themselves travel much, and the affairs of the 4 villages were their chief concern. Occasionally, the hobbits of Bree went as far as Buckland, or the East Farthing, but though their little land was not much further than a day's riding east of the Brandywine bridges, I was just going to accept that sentence. The hobbits of the Shire now seldom visited it. An occasional Bucklander or adventurous took would come out. I'm not going to edit these videos anymore, by the way. I might, but I'm going to accept mistakes more often because I realize it's not worth it to edit these videos anymore. An occasional Bucklander and adventurous took would come out to the inn for a night or two, but even that was becoming less and less usual. The Shire hobbits referred to those of Bree and to any others that lived beyond the borders as outsiders and took very little interest in them, considering them dull and uncouth. There were probably many more outsiders scattered about in the west of the world these days, in the west of the world in those days, than the people of the Shire imagined. Some, doubtless, were no better than tramps, ready to dig a hole in any bank and stay only as long as it suited them. But in Breeland, at any rate, the hobbits were decent and prosperous, and no more rustic than most of their distant relatives inside. It was not yet forgotten that there had been a time when there was much coming and going between the Shire and Bree. There was Bree blood in the Brandybucks by all accounts. The village of Bree had some 100 stone houses of the big folk, mostly above the road, nestling on the hillside with windows looking west. On that side, running in more than half a circle from the hill and back to it, there was a deep dike with a thick hedge on the inner side. Over this the road crossed by a causeway, but where it pierced the hedge, it was barred by a great gate. There was another gate in the southern corner where the road ran out of the village. The gates were closed at nightfall, but just inside them were small lodges for the gatekeepers. Down on the hill, where it swept to the right to go round the foot of the hill, there was a large inn. It had been built long ago when the traffic on the roads had been far greater, for Bree stood at an old meeting of ways. Another ancient road crossed the east road just outside the dike at the western end of the village, and in former days, men and other folk of varying sorts had traveled much on it. Strange as news from Bree was still a saying in the East Farthing, descending from those days when news from the north, south, and east could be heard in the inn, and when the Shire hobbits used to go more often to hear it. But the northern lands had long been desolate, and the north road was now seldom used. It was grass-grown, and the Bree folk called it the Greenway. The Inn of Bree was still there, however, and the innkeeper was an important person. His house was a meeting place for the idle, talkative, and inquisitive among the inhabitants, large and small, of the 4 villages, and a resort of rangers and other wanderers, and for such travelers, mostly dwarves, as still journeyed on the east road to and from the mountains. It was dark, and the white stars were shining, when Frodo and his companions came at last to the Greenway crossing and drew near the village. They came to the west gate and found it shut, but at the door of the lodge beyond it there was a man sitting. He jumped up and fetched a lantern, and looked over at the gate at them in surprise. "What do you want, and where do you come from?" he asked gruffly. "We're making for the inn here," answered Frodo. We are journeying east and cannot go further tonight." "Hobbits, 4 hobbits, and what's more, out of the Shire by their talk," said the gatekeeper, Oh, said softly. That's not softly. Let's redo that one. Hobbits, 4 hobbits, once more out of the Shire by their talk, said the gatekeeper, softly as if speaking to himself. He stared at them darkly for a moment, and then slowly opened the gate and let them ride through. We don't often see Shire folk riding on the road at night, he went on, as they halted a moment by his door. You'll pardon my wondering what your business takes you away east of Bree. What may your names be, I ask? Our names and our business are our own, and this does not seem like a good place to discuss them, said Frodo, not liking the look of the man or the tone of his voice. Your business is your own, no doubt. Your business is your own, no doubt, said the man. But it's my business to ask questions after nightfall. Mary. We're hobbits from Buckland. We have a fancy to travel and stay at the inn here, put in Mary. I'm Mr. Brandybuck. Is that enough for you? The Bree folk used to be fair spoken to travellers, or so I had heard. All right, said the man. I meant no offence, but you'll find maybe that more folk than old Harry at the gate will be asking you questions. Okay, when they say, there's anyone here? No one's here. It'd be great if I had a chat. Okay, so when I'm reading this, and somebody says queer, I've been just saying it because we know what they're talking about. It's the 50s. They're talking about strange, right? But I'm like, should I not be saying that? You know? Should I stay faithful to the original work and just understand that I'm going to be saying queer a lot in the wrong way or in the way of old? Or should I just say strange instead? What would be better? What would be better? Chatters? Anybody? I don't think anyone's here. This is a decision I have to make myself. Well, nobody's complained thus far, so I guess I'll keep saying queer, but I feel weird every time I do it. I'm like, queer. It's like there's queer folk about. There's strange folk. I'm going to say strange. I think I would rather say strange. I think I'd rather say strange. Okay, where was I? I'm a business on my own. All right then, said the man. I meant no offence, but you'll find that maybe more than old Harry at the gate will be asking you questions. There's strange folk about. If you go on to the pony, you'll find you're not the only guests. Whoop! Hit my light. He wished them a good night, and they said no more. But Frodo could see in the lantern light that the man was still eyeing them curiously. He was glad to hear the gate clang behind them as they rode forward. He wondered why the man was so suspicious and whether anyone had been asking for news of a party of hobbits. Could it have been Gandalf? He might have arrived while they were delayed in the forest and the downs, but there was something in the look and the voice of the gatekeeper that made him uneasy. The man stared after the hobbits for a moment, and then he went back to his house. As soon as his back was turned, a dark figure climbed quickly. A dark figure climbed quickly in over the gate and melted into the shadows of the village street. The hobbits rode up on a gentle slope, passing a few detached houses, and drew up outside the inn. The houses looked large and strange to them. Sam stared up at the inn with its 3 stories and many windows and felt his heart sink. He had imagined himself meeting giants taller than trees and other creatures even more terrifying. Sometime or other in the course of his journey, but at the moment he was finding his first sight of men and their tall houses quite enough. Indeed, too much for the dark end of a tiring day. He pictured black horses standing all saddled in the shadows of the inn yard, and black riders peering out of dark upper windows. We surely ain't going to stay. Wait. Mr. Frodo. Oh, there's Colby. We're going to stay true to the content. That's your vote. I already made a choice. You're too late. You should have said something quicker. They don't ever say queer in the movies, okay? The movie makers decided to do it different too. Okay? All right? Okay? Sorry, where was I? Oh, yeah, I have to remember how to do Sam's voice. Mr. Frodo. Yes, of course, Mr. Frodo. We surely aren't going to stay here for the night, are we, sir? He exclaimed. If there are hobbit folk in these parts, why don't we look for some that would be willing to take us in? It would be more homelike. What's wrong with the inn? Said Frodo. Tom Bombadil recommended it. I expect it's homelike enough inside. Even from the outside, the inn looked like a pleasant house to a... Oh, shit. Even from the outside, the inn looked like... See, his sentences are so weird sometimes. Okay. Even from the outside, the inn looked a pleasant house to familiar eyes. It had a front on the road and two wings running back on land, partly cut out of the lower slopes of the hill, so that the rear of the second-floor windows were level with the ground. There was a wide arch leading to a courtyard between two wings, and on the left, under the arch, there was a large doorway, reached by a few broad steps. The door was open, and light streamed out of it. Above the arch there was a lamp, and beneath it swung a large signboard. A fat white pony reared up on its hind legs. Over the door was painted in white letters, "The Prancing Pony" by Barlaman Butterbur. Many of the lower windows showed lights behind thick curtains. As they hesitated, outside in the gloom, somebody began singing a merry song inside, and many cheerful voices joined loudly in the chorus. They listened to this encouraging sound for a moment, and... page turn. Then got off their ponies. The song ended, and there was a burst of laughter and clapping. They led their ponies under the arch, leaving them standing in the yard. They climbed up the steps. Frodo went forward and nearly bumped into a short, fat man with a bald head and a red face. He had a white apron on and was bustling out of one door and in through another, carrying a tray laden with full mugs. "Can we—" began Frodo.
"Half a minute, if you please,"
shouted the man over his shoulder, and vanished into a babble of voices and a cloud of smoke. In a moment he was out again, wiping his hands on his apron.
Good evening, Good evening, little master," he said, bending down. What may you be wanting?" Trying to do a little what may you be wanting?"
"Beds for 4, and stabling for 5 ponies, if it can be managed. Are you Mr. Butterbur?"
"That's right. Barlaman is my name. Barlaman Butterbur, at your service. You're from the Shire, eh?"
he said, and then suddenly he clapped his hands to his forehead, as if trying to remember something.
"Hobbits," he cried. "Now what does that remind me of? Might I ask your name, sirs?"
"Mr. Took and Mr. Brandybuck," said Frodo, "and this is Sam Gamgee. My name is Underhill."
"There now,"
said Mr. Butterbury, snapping his fingers.
"It's gone again, but it'll come back when I've time to think. I've run off my feet, but I'll see what I can do for you. We don't often get a party out of the Shire nowadays. I should be sorry not to make you welcome, but there is such a crowd already in the house tonight as there hasn't been for long enough. It never rains, but it pours, we say in Pree." "Oi, Nob," he said. "Where are you, you woolly-footed slow-coach? Nob!"
"Comin', sir, comin'." A cheery-looking hobbit bobbed out of a door, and seeing the travelers, stopped short and stared at them with great interest.
"Where's Bob?" asked the landlord. "You don't know? Well, find him. Double sharp. I haven't got 6 legs, nor 6 eyes neither. Tell Bob there's 5 ponies that have to be stable. He must find room somehow."
Nod trotted off, with a grin and a wink.
"Well, now, what was I going to say?" said Mr. Butterbur, tapping his forehead. "One thing drives out another, so to speak. I'm that busy tonight, my head is going round. There's a party that came up the Greenway from down south last night that was strange enough to begin with. Oh, and that was strange enough to begin with. Then there's a travelling company of dwarves going west coming in. And then there's a travelling company of dwarves coming in west. This fucking words!"
I can read words, and I cannot get distracted by my own thoughts.
Then there's a travelling company of dwarves going west coming this evening. And now there's you. If you weren't hobbits, I doubt if we could house you. But we got a room or two in the north wing that were made special for hobbits when this place was built. On the ground floor, as they usually prefer, round windows, as they all like it. I hope you'll be comfortable. You'll be wanting supper, I don't doubt, as soon as may be. This way, now.
He led them a short way down a passage and opened a door.
Here is a nice little parlour, he said. I hope it will suit. Excuse me now, I'm that busy. No time for talking. I must be trotting. It's hard work. It's hard work for two legs, and I don't get thinner. I'll look in again later. If you want anything, ring the bell, and Nob will come. If he don't come, ring and shout.
I think I picked a bad voice for that guy. That one's going to be hard to keep up. Off he went at last, and left them feeling rather breathless. He seemed capable of an endless stream of talk. However busy he might be, they found themselves in a small and cozy room. There was a bit of bright fire burning on the hearth, and in front of it there were some low and comfortable chairs. There was a round table, already spread with a white cloth, and on it was a large handbell. But Nob, the hobbit servant, came bustling in long before they thought of ringing. He brought candles and a tray full of plates.
Will you be wanting anything to drink, mistress?
He asked.
And shall I show you to the bedrooms while your supper is got ready?
They were washed, and in the middle of a good deep mugs of beer. They were washed, and in the middle of good deep mugs of beer, Mr. Butterbur and Nob came in again. In a twinkling, the table was laid. There was hot soup, cold meats, a blackberry tart, new loaves, slabs of butter, and half a ripe cheese. Good plain food, as good as the Shire could show, and homelike enough to dispel the last of Sam's misgivings, already much relieved by the excellence of the beer. The landlord hovered round for a little, and then prepared to leave them. I don't know whether you would care to join the company. Oh, wait, no, this is the landlord.
Gotta do a voice. I don't know whether you would care to join the company when you have supped, he said, standing at the door. Perhaps you would rather go to your beds. Still, the company would be very pleased to welcome you if you had mind. We don't get outsiders, travellers from the Shire, I should say, begging your pardon, often. And we like to hear a bit of news, or any story or song you might have in mind. But as you please, ring the bell if you lack anything.
Great service, great service. Ring the bell at bell service. Incredible service. So refreshed and encouraged did they feel at the end of their supper, about 3/4 of an hour's steady going, not hindered by unnecessary talk, that Frodo, Pippin, and Sam decided to join the company. Pause. Mary said it would be too stuffy. I shall sit here quiet. Nope, this is Mary. I shall sit here. No, Irish. I'm Irish. I'm Mary. I shall sit here quietly by the fire for a bit. Perhaps go out later for a sniff of the air. Mind your P's and Q's. And don't forget you're supposed to be escaping in secret, and still on the high road, not very far from the Shire. All right, said Pippin. Mind yourself, don't get lost, and forget that it is safer indoors. The company was in the big common room of the inn. The gathering was large and mixed, as Frodo discovered, when his eyes got used to the light. This came chiefly from a blazing log fire, for the 3 lamps hanging from the beams were dim and half veiled in smoke. Barlaam Butterbur was standing near the fire, talking to a couple of dwarves and 1 or 2 strange-looking men. On the benches were various folk, men of Bree, a collection of local hobbits, sitting, chattering together, and a few more dwarves, and other vague figures difficult to make out away in the shadows and corners. As soon as the Shire hobbits entered, there was a chorus of welcome from the Breelanders, the strangers, especially those that had come up the Greenway, stared at them curiously. The landlord introduced the newcomers of the... So hard to focus, mate. The landlord introduced the newcomers to the Bree folk so quickly that, though they caught many names, they were seldom sure who the names belonged to. The men of Bree seemed to have rather botanical, and to the Shire folk rather odd, names like Rushlight, Goatleaf, Heathertoes, Appledore, Thistlewool, and Ferny, not to mention Butterbur. Some of the hobbits had similar names. The mugworts, for instance, seemed numerous, but most of them had natural names, such as Banks, Brockhouse, Longholes, Sandheaver, and Tunnelly, many of which were used in the Shire. There were several Underhills from Staddle, and as they could not imagine sharing a name without being related, they took... There's a lot of activity outside my freaking window today. I wonder what that's about. Should I be brighter or should I be less bright? I guess brighter, whatever. There were several Underhills on this now, as they could not imagine sharing a name without being related, they took Frodo to their hearts as a long-lost cousin. The Bree hobbits were in fact friendly and inquisitive, and Frodo soon found that some explanation of what he was doing would have to be given. He gave out that he was interested in history and geography, at which there was much wagging of heads, although neither of these words were much used in Bree dialect. He said he was thinking of writing a book, at which there was silent astonishment, and that he and his friends wanted to collect information about hobbits living outside the Shire, especially in the eastern lands. At this, a chorus of voices broke out. If Frodo had really wanted to write a book, and he had many ears, he would have learned enough for several chapters in a few minutes. And if that was not enough, he was given a whole list of names, beginning with Old Barlaman here, to whom he could go for further information. But after a time, as Frodo did not show any sign of writing a book on the spot, the hobbits returned to their questions about the Shire and the doings there. That's not what that sentence said, but I'm not redoing it. It's close enough. Frodo did not prove very communicative, and soon found himself sitting alone in a corner, listening and looking around. The men and the dwarves were mostly talking of distant events, and telling news of a kind that was becoming only too familiar. There was trouble away in the south, and it seemed that the men who had come up the Greenway were on the move, looking for lands where they could find some peace. The Bree folk were sympathetic, but plainly not very ready to take a large number of strangers into their little land. One of the travelers, a squint-eyed, ill-favored fellow, was fortune-telling that more and more people would be coming north in the near future. If room isn't found for them, they'll find it for themselves. They'll find it for themselves. They've a right to live, same as other folk, he said loudly. The local inhabitants did not look pleased at the prospect. The hobbits did not pay much attention to this, as it did not at the moment seem to concern hobbits. Big folk hardly begged for lodging in hobbit holes. They were more interested in Sam and Pippin, who were now feeling quite at home and were chatting gaily. Should I do that one too? Should I do that one different? Happily. And were chatting happily about events in the Shire. Pippin roused a good deal of laughter with an account of the collapse of the roof of the town hole in Mickle Delving. Will Whitfoot, the mayor, and the fattest hobbit in the West Farthing had been buried in chalk and had come out like a floured dumpling. But there were several questions asked that made Frodo a little uneasy. One of the Breelanders, who seemed to have been in the Shire several times, wanted to know where the Underhills lived and who they were related to. Suddenly Frodo noticed that a strange-looking, weather-beaten man, sitting in the shadows near the wall, was also listening intently to the hobbit talk. He had a tall tankard in front of him, and was smoking a long stem pipe curiously carved. His legs were stretched out before him, showing high boots of supple leather that fitted him well, but had seen much wear and were now caked with mud. A travel-stained cloak of heavy, dark green cloth was drawn close about him, and in spite of the heat of the room, he wore a hood that overshadowed his face, but the gleam of his eyes could be seen as he watched the hobbits. "Who is that?" asked Frodo, when he got a chance to whisper to Mr. Butterbur. "I don't think you introduced him."
"Him," said the landlord in an answering whisper, cocking an eye without turning his head. "I don't rightly know. He is one of the wandering folk, rangers we call 'em. He seldom talks, but what he can tell a rare tale when he has the mind. He disappears for a month or a year, then he pops up again. He was in and out pretty often last spring, and I haven't seen him about lately. What his right name is, I've never heard, but he's known around here as Strider. Goes about at a great pace on his long shanks, though he don't tell nobody what cause he has to hurry. But there's no accounting for east and west, as we say in Bree, meaning the rangers and the shire folk. Begging your pardon. Funny you should ask about him."
But at that moment, Mr. Butterbur was called away by a demand for more ale, and at last his remark remained unexplained. "We got Strider coming in." I'm going to have to get his voice real good because he's going to keep showing up, obviously. Frodo found that Strider was now looking at him as if he had heard or guessed all that had been said. All that had been said. Presently, with a wave of his hand and a nod, he invited Frodo to come over and sit by him. As Frodo drew near, he threw back his hood, showing a shaggy head of dark hair flecked with gray, and in a pale, stern face, a pair of keen dark eyes.
"I am called Strider," he said in a low voice. "I am very pleased to meet you, Master Underhill, if old Butterbur got your name right."
What is this guy, Gandalf? Shit, I had practice.
I am called Strider," he said in a low voice. "I am very pleased to meet you, Master Underhill, if old Butterbur got your name right."
"He did?" said Frodo stiffly. He felt far from comfortable under the stare of those keen eyes.
"Well, Master Underhill," said Strider, "if I were you, I should stop your friends from talking too much. Drink, fire, and chance meeting are pleasant enough, but, well, this isn't the Shire. There are strange folk about, though I say it as shouldn't. You may think," he added with a wry smile, seeing Frodo's glance, "and there have been even stranger travelers through Bree lately," he went on, watching Frodo's gaze. Frodo returned his gaze, but said nothing, and Strider made no further sign. His attention seemed suddenly to be fixed on Pippin. To his alarm, Frodo became aware that the ridiculous young Took, encouraged by his success with the fat mayor of Mickle Delving, was now actually giving a comic account of Bilbo's farewell party. He was already giving an imitation of the speech, and was drawing near to the astonishing disappearance. Frodo was annoyed. It was a harmless enough tale for the most of local hobbits, no doubt, just a funny story about those funny people away beyond the river. But some, old Butterbur for instance, knew a thing or two, and had probably heard rumors long ago about Bilbo's vanishing. It would bring the name of Baggins to their minds, especially if there had been inquiries in Bree after the name. Frodo fidgeted, wondering what to do. Pippin was evidently much enjoying the attention he was getting, and had become quite forgetful of their danger. Frodo had a sudden fear that in his present mood he might even mention the ring, and that might well be disastrous. He would better do something quick.
"You had better do something quick," whispered Strider in his ear. Frodo jumped up and stood on a table and began to talk. The attention of Pippin's audience was disturbed. Some of the hobbits looked at Frodo and laughed and clapped, thinking that Mr. Underhill had taken as much ale as was good for him. Frodo suddenly felt very foolish and found himself, as was his habit when making a speech, fingering at things in his pocket. He felt the ring on its chain, and quite unaccountably, the desire came over him to slip it on and vanish out of this silly situation. It seemed to him somehow as if the suggestion came to him from outside, from someone or something in the room. He resisted the temptation firmly and clasped the ring in his hand as if to keep a hold on it and prevent it from escaping or doing any mischief. At any rate, it gave him no inspiration. He spoke a few suitable words, as I would have said in the Shire. "We are all very much grateful by the kindness in your reception, and I venture to hope—" Oh, crap, what is that sound? Some trucks making some rattling noises. Some rattling noises in the background, ruining everything. Ruining everything! What if I change the lighting? Is it better this way, or is it better this way? What if I turn it down a little bit? Is that better? Has any opinions in there? Well, according to my own simple personal opinion, this is better, so I'm going to do this. Okay. "We are all very much gratified by the kindness of your reception, and I venture to hope that my brief visit will help renew the old ties of friendship between the Shire and Bree." I'm sure you can hear this one. Hopefully. Pause. Let them drive, get their car out of the parking spot. Any questions from the viewers? Any questions from the viewers? I'm gonna like my own video. I'm gonna like it. Leave a like if you're here. Okay. Will help renew old ties of friendship between the Shire and Bree. Then he hesitated and coughed. Everyone in the room was now looking at him. "A song!" shouted one of the hobbits. "A song! A song!" shouted all the others. "Come on now, master, sing us something that we haven't heard before." For a moment, Frodo stood gaping, and then in desperation he began a ridiculous song that Bilbo had been rather fond of, and indeed rather proud of, for he had made up the words himself, and was just about an inn. This is probably why it came up to Frodo's mind just then. Here it is in full. Only a few words of it are now, as a rule, remembered. As a rule. What kind of rule? Which is a very curious thing to say. "There is an inn, a merry old inn, beneath an old grey hill, and there they brew beer so brown that Man in the Moon himself came down, and one night to drink his fill. The ostler had a tipsy cat, and plays a fiddle the ostler has a tipsy cat, and plays a five-string fiddle, and up and down he runs his bow, and up and down he runs his bow, now squeaking high, now purring low, now sawing in the middle. The landlord keeps a little dog that is mighty fond of jokes." Do I ever want to sing ever again? Can I stop now? Can they stop playing songs? Can you stop writing songs that I have to sing? I don't want to do this. But I'm committed. "The landlord keeps a little dog that is mighty fond of jokes. When there's a good cheer among the guests, he cocks an ear at all the jests and laughs until he chokes. They also keep a horned cow, as proud as any queen, but music turns her head like ale, and makes her wave her tough tail, and dance upon the green." Oh, yeah. Holy shit, man. I've already sang the song once and it didn't record. And now I'm doing it again. Now I'm doing it again. Man, the quality of the stream is not particularly high, is it? That is too bad. And oh, the rows of silver dishes. Do we do that? No, we don't. And oh, the rows of silver dishes and the store of silver spoons. For Sundays there's a special pair, and these they polish up with care on Saturday afternoons. Dude, what is my voice? Like, I don't know how to come up with a... I complain every time. I should probably just stop fucking singing. I literally should just... what am I going to do? Come up with a key and notes and fuck. Oh, okay. Well, this is actually kind of staying, so maybe I'll do this. Like that. Is that better? Is that going to make it easier for me? Fuck. All right. You know what? Who cares? I'm not a singer. Nobody expects me to be a good singer. We're going to stop. We're going to stop singing, okay? We're going to stop singing. Unless I'm Tom Bombadil, then of course I'm singing. Okay. Of course I'm singing if I'm Tom Bombadil. But I don't even know if that character is going to ever show up again. So... And oh, the rows of silver dishes and the store of silver spoons. For Sunday, there's a special pair, and these they polish up with care. Wait, I gotta do it in Frodo's voice at least. And the man in the moon was drinking deep, and the cat began to wail. A dish and a spoon on the table danced. The cow in the garden madly pranced, and the little dog chased his tail. The man in the moon took another mug, and then rolled beneath his chair, and there he dozed and dreamed of ale, till in the sky the stars were pale, and dawn was in the air. When the ostler said to his tipsy cat, the white horses of the moon, they neigh and champ their silver bits, but the master's been and drowned his wits, and the sun'll be rising soon. So the cat on his fiddle played hey diddle diddle, a jig that would wake the dead. He squeaked and squawked and quickened the tune, while the landlord shook the man in the moon. It's after 3, he said. They rolled the man slowly up the hill and bundled him into the moon, while his horses galloped up in the rear, and the cow came capering like a deer, and a dish ran up with a spoon. Now quicker the fiddle went diddle-dee-dum, and the dog began to roar, and the cows and the horses stood on their hands, and the guests all bounded from their beds, and danced upon the floor. With a ping and a pong, and the fiddle string broke, and the cow jumped over the moon, and the little dog laughed to see such fun, and the Saturday dish went off at a run with the silver Sunday spoon. The round moon rolled up behind the hill. As the sun raised up her head, she hardly believed her fiery eyes, for though it was dry, to her surprise, they all went back to bed. Imagine that, but singing. That's what was in this. And also, I'm sweating up a fucking storm. Holy crap, dude. I opened this window so I wouldn't die, and yet I'm sweating anyways. There was a long... I can't. I need to shut up and stop complaining and just read the fucking book. Okay, let's do this. There was a loud and long applause. Frodo had a good voice, and the song tickled their fancy. "Where's old Barley?" they cried. "He ought to hear this. Bob ought to learn his cat the fiddle, and then we'd have to dance." They called for more ale and began to shout, "Let's have it again, master. Come on now, once more." They made Frodo have another drink, and then begin his song again, while many of them joined in, for the tune was well known, and they were quick at picking up words. Oh, that singing took me out. Jeepers. Gatorade, because why not? It was now Frodo's turn to feel pleased with himself. He capered about on the table, and when he came a second time to the cow jumped over the moon, he leaped in the air, much too vigorously, for he came down, bang, into a tray full of mugs, and slipped and rolled off the table with a crash, a clatter, and bump. The audience all opened their mouths wide with laughter. For laughter and stopped short in gaping silence, for the singer had disappeared. He simply vanished, as if he had gone slap through the floor without leaving a hole. The local hobbits stared in amazement, and then sprang to their feet and shouted for Barlaman. All the company drew away from Pippin and Sam, who found themselves left alone in a corner, and eyed darkly and doubtfully from a distance. It was plain that many regarded them now as the companions of a traveling magician of an unknown powers and purpose. But there was one swarthy Breelander who stood looking at them with a knowing and half-mocking expression that made them feel very uncomfortable. Presently, he slipped out of the door, followed by the squint-eyed southerner. The two had been whispering together a good deal during the evening. Frodo felt a fool. Not knowing what else to do, he crawled away under the tables to the dark corner by Strider, who sat unmoved, giving no sign of his thoughts. Frodo leaned back against the wall, and he took off the ring. How it came to be on his finger, he could not tell. He could only suppose that he had been handling it in his pocket while he sang, and that somehow it had slipped on when he stuck out his hand with a jerk to save his fall. For a moment, he wondered if the ring itself had not played him a trick. Perhaps it had tried to reveal itself in response to some wish or command that was felt in the room. He did not like the looks of the men that had gone out.
Well,
Wait, Strider. Well, said Strider when he reappeared, why did you do that? Worse than anything your friends could have said. You have put your foot in it, or should I say your finger.
I don't know what you mean, said Frodo, annoyed and alarmed.
Oh, yes, you do, answered Strider. But we had better wait until the uproar has died down, if you please, Mr. Baggins. I should like a quiet word with you.
What about?
Asked Frodo, ignoring the sudden use of his proper name. A matter of some importance for us both. A matter of some importance for us both, answered Strider, looking Frodo in the eye. You may hear something to your advantage.
Very well,
said Frodo, trying to appear unconcerned. I'll talk to you later. Meanwhile, an argument was going on by the fireplace. Mr. Butterbur had come trotting in. He was now trying to listen to several conflicting accounts of the event at the same time.
I saw Mr. Butterbur, said a hobbit. Or leastways, I didn't see him, as you take my meaning. He just vanished into thin air, in a manner of speaking.
You don't say, Mr. Mugwort, said the landlord, looking puzzled.
Yes, I do, replied Mugwort. And I mean what I say, what's more.
There's some mistake somewhere, said Butterbur, shaking his head. There was too much of that, Mr. Underhill, to go vanishing into thin air, or into thick air, is more likely in this room.
Well, where is he now?
Cried several voices.
How should I know? He's welcome to go where he will, so long as he pays in the morning. There's Mr. Took now. He's not vanished.
Sorry, I have like a fucking zit right here. I'm not picking my nose. Why did I feel the need to say that? I don't know. Dude, I need to just not say all of my thoughts. I feel like that would help. You know, if I could just do that. Okay. All right. Where were we? Well, I saw, and I saw I didn't, said Mr. Mugwort, obstinately.
Then I say there's some mistake,
repeated Butterbur, picking up the tray and gathering up the broken crockery.
Of course there's a mistake, said Frodo. I haven't vanished. Here I am. I've just been having a few words with Strider in the corner.
He came forward into the firelight, but most of the company backed away, even more perturbed than before. They were not in the least satisfied by his explanation that he had crawled away quickly under the tables after he had fallen. Most of the hobbits and the men of Bree went off then and there in a huff, having no fancy for further entertainment that evening. One or two gave Frodo a black look and departed muttering among themselves. The dwarves and 2 or 3 strange men that still remained got up and said good night to the landlord, but not to Frodo or his friends. Before long, no one was left but Strider, who sat on, unnoticed, by the wall. Mr. Butterbur did not seem much put out. He reckoned, very probably, that his house would be full again on many future nights, until the present mystery had been thoroughly discussed.
"Now what have you been doing, Mr. Underhill?"
he asked.
"Fighting my customers and breaking up my crocks with your acrobatics?"
"I am very sorry to have caused any trouble," said Frodo. "It was quite unintentional, I assure you. A most unfortunate accident."
"All right, Mr. Underhill, but if you're going to do any more tumbling or conjuring or whatever it was, you best warn folk beforehand, and warn me. We're suspicious around here of anything out of the way, uncanny, if you understand me, and we don't take to it all of a sudden."
"I shan't be doing anything of the sort, Mr. Butterbur, I promise you. And now I think I'll be getting to bed. We shall be making an early start. Will you see that our ponies are ready by 8 o'clock?
"Very good. But before you go, I should like a word with you in private, Mr. Underhill. Something has just come back to my mind that I ought to tell you. I hope you'll not take it amiss. When I've seen a thing or two, I'll come along to your room, if you're willing."
"Certainly," said Frodo, but his heart sank. He wondered how many private talks he would have before he got to bed, and what they would reveal. With these people all in league against him, he began to suspect even old Butterbur's fat face of concealing dark designs. All right. We made it to chapter 10, Strider. Okay, and the live is still going. I still see it here. So I can assume it hasn't fucking ended. Hopefully. I refreshed the page. We're still good. We're golden. Great. Better than last week already. All right. Chapter 10. Where's my phone? What time is it? About an hour. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Very cool. Always got to take a break, you know what I mean? Okay. Oh. All right. Chapter 10. All right, here, wait. I gotta say it sound good. Chapter 10. Strider. Frodo, Pippin, and Sam made their way back to the parlor. There was no light. Merry was not there, and the fire had burned low. It was not until they had puffed up the embers into a blaze and thrown on them a couple of bundles of sticks that they discovered Strider had come with them. There he was calmly sitting in a chair by the door. "Hello," said Pippin. "Who are you, and what do you want?" "I am called Strider," he answered, and though he may have forgotten it, your friend promised to have a quiet talk with me."
"You and I might hear something to my advantage, I believe," said Frodo. "What have you to say?"
"Several things," answered Strider, "but of course I have my price."
"What do you mean?"
said Frodo sharply. "Don't be alarmed. I mean just this. I will tell you what I know, and give you some good advice, but I shall want a reward."
"And what will that be, pray?"
said Frodo. He suspected now that he had fallen in with a rascal, and he thought uncomfortably that he brought only a little money with him. All of it would hardly satisfy a rogue, and he could not spare any of it. "No more than you can afford," answered Strider, with a slow smile, as if he had guessed Frodo's thoughts. "Just this. You must take me along with you until I wish to leave you.
"Oh, indeed," replied Frodo, surprised and not much relieved. "Even if I wanted another companion, I should not agree to any such thing until I know a good deal more about you and your business."
Excellent. Yes, excellent.
Why can't I do this voice right?
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent, exclaimed Strider, crossing. Excellent. 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 Excellent, exclaimed Strider, crossing his legs and sitting back comfortably. You seem to be coming to your senses again. That is all to the good. You have been much too careless so far. Very well. I will tell you what I know, and leave the reward to you. You may be glad to grant it when you have heard me.
"Go on, then. What do you know?"
Too much. Too many dark things, said Strider grimly. But as for your business... He got up and went to the door, opened it quickly and looked out. Then he shut it quietly and sat down again. I have looked out. Oh, I have quick ears, he went on, lowering his voice. And though I cannot disappear, I have hunted many wild and wary things, and I can usually avoid being seen if I wish. Now I was behind the hedge this evening, on the road west of Bree, when 4 hobbits came out of the downlands. I need not repeat all that they said to old Bombadil or to one another, but one thing interested me. Please remember, said one of them. The name Baggins must not be mentioned. I am Mr. Underhill, if any name must be given. That interested me so much that I followed them here. I slipped over the gate just behind them. Maybe Mr. Baggins has an honest reason for leaving his name behind, but if so, I should advise him and his friends. To be more careful.
I don't see what interest my name has for anyone in Bree, said Frodo angrily. And I have still to learn why it interests you. Mr. Strider may have an honest reason for spying and eavesdropping, but if so, I should advise him to explain it.
Well answered, said Strider, laughing. But the explanation is too simple. I was looking for a hobbit called Frodo Baggins. I wanted to find him quickly. I learned that he was carrying out of the Shire, well, a secret that concerned me and my friends. Now don't mistake me, he cried as Frodo rose from his seat, and Sam jumped up with a scowl. I shall take more care of the secret than you do, and care is needed. He leaned forward and looked at them. Watch every shadow, he said. Watch every shadow, he said in a low voice. Black horsemen have passed through Bree. On Monday, one came down the Greenway, they say, and another appeared later, coming up the Greenway from the south. There was a silence. At last Frodo spoke to Pippin and Sam.
I ought to have guessed it from the way the gatekeeper greeted us, he said. The landlord seems to have heard something. Why did he press us to join the company? And why on earth did we behave so foolishly? We ought to have stayed quiet in here.
It would have been better, said Strider. It would have stopped your going in the common room, if I could. I would have stopped your going into the common room, if I could, but the innkeeper would not let me in to see you, or take a message.
Do you think he...
began Mr. Frodo. No, I don't think any harm of old Butterbur. Only he does not altogether like mysterious vagabonds of my sort. Frodo gave him a puzzled look. Well, I have a rather rascally look, have I not? Said Strider, the curl of his lip, and a strange gleam in his eye. But I hope we shall get to know one another better. When we do, I hope you will explain what happened at the end of your song, with that little prank.
It was a sheer accident,
interrupted Frodo. I wonder, said Strider. Accident, then. That accident has made your position dangerous.
Hardly more dangerous than it was already. I knew these horsemen were pursuing me, but now, at any rate, they seem to have missed me and to have gone away.
You must not count on that. You must not count on that, said Strider sharply. They will return, and more are coming. There are others. I know their number. I know these riders. He paused, and his eyes were cold and hard. There are some folk in Bree who are not to be trusted, he went on. Bill Ferny, for instance. He has an evil name in the Bree land, and strange folk call at his house. You must have noticed him among the company, a swarthy, sneering fellow. He was very close with one of the southern strangers, and they slipped out together just after your accident. Not all of those southerners mean well, and as for Ferny, he would sell anything to anybody, or make mischief for amusement.
What will Ferny sell? And what has my accident got to do with him?
Said Frodo, still determined not to understand Strider's hints. News of you, of course, answered Strider. An account of your performance would be very interesting to certain people. After that, they would hardly need to be told your real name. It seems to me only too likely they will hear of it before this night is over. Is that enough? You can do as you like about my reward, take me as a guide or not, but I may say that I know all the lands between the Shire and the Misty Mountains, for I have wandered over them for many years. I am older than I look. I might prove useful. You'll have to leave the open road after tonight, for the horsemen will watch it night and day. You may escape from Bree, and be allowed to go forward while the sun is up, but you won't go far. They will come on you in the wild, in some dark place, where there is no help. Do you wish them to find you? They are terrible. The hobbits looked at him and saw with surprise that his face was drawn as if with pain, and his hands clenched the arms of his chair. The room was very quiet and still. The light seemed to have grown dim. For a while he sat with unseeing eyes, as if walking in distant memory, or listening to sounds in the night far away. There, he cried after a moment, drawing his hands across his brow. Perhaps I know more about these pursuers than you do. You fear them, but you do not fear them enough. But you do not fear them enough yet. Tomorrow you will have to escape, if you can. Strider can take you by paths that are seldom ridden. Strider can take you by paths that are seldom trodden. Strider can take you by paths that are seldom trodden. Will you have him? There was a heavy silence. Frodo made no answer. His mind was confused with doubt and fear. Sam frowned and looked at his master, and at last he broke out,
Mr. Frodo, with your leave, Mr. Frodo, I'd say no. This Strider here, he warns and he says take care, and I will say yes to that, but let's begin with him. He comes out of the wild, and I never heard no such good of such folk. He knows something, that's plain, more than I like, but it's no reason why we should let him go, leading us out into some dark place far from help, as he puts it.
Pippin fidgeted and looked uncomfortable. Strider did not reply to Sam, but turned his keen eyes on Frodo. Frodo caught his glance and looked away.
No, he said slowly, I don't agree, I think you are not really as you choose to look. You began to talk to me like the Bree folk, but your voice has changed. Still, Sam seems right in this. I don't see why you should want us to take care, and yet ask us to take you on trust. Why the disguise? Who are you? What do you really know about my business, and how do you know it?
The lesson in caution has been well learned, said Strider with a grim smile. But caution is one thing and wavering is another. You will never get to Rivendell now on your own, and to trust me is your only chance. You must make up your mind. I will answer some of your questions if that will help you to do so. But why should you believe my story if you do not trust me already? Still, here it is. At that moment, There came a knock at the door. Mr. Butterbur had arrived with candles, and behind him was Nob with cans of hot water. Strider withdrew into a dark corner.
I've come to bid you good night,
Said the landlord, putting the candles on the table.
Nob, take the water to the rooms.
He came in and shut the door.
It's like this.
He began, hesitating and looking troubled.
If I've done any harm, I'm sorry indeed, but one thing drives out another. As you'll admit, I'm a busy man. But first one thing and then another this week have jogged my memory, and as the saying goes, and not too late, I hope. You see, I was asked to look out for hobbits of the Shire, for one by the name of Baggins in particular.
And what has that got to do with me? Said Frodo.
Ah, you know best, said the landlord knowingly. I won't give you away, but I was told that this Baggins would be going by the name of Underhill. And I was given the description that fits you well enough, if I must say so.
Indeed? Let's have it then, said Frodo, unwisely interrupting.
That filthy Frodo Baggins. A stout little fellow with red cheeks,
said Mr. Butterbur solemnly. Pippin chuckled, but Sam looked indignant.
That won't help you much, as it goes for most hobbits. Barley, he says to me,
continued Mr. Butterbur with a glance at Pippin,
but this one is duller than some, and fairer than most, and has a cleft in his chin. Perky chap, with the bright eye. Begging your pardon, but he said it, not me.
Oh man, that voice is getting me apparently. Damn.
He said it, and who was he?
Asked Frodo eagerly.
Ah, that was Gandalf, if you know who I mean. A wizard, they say he is, but he's a good friend of mine, whether or no. Hey! But now, I don't know what he'll have to say to me if I see him again. Turn on my ale, or sour me, and turn on my ale sour, turn me into a block of wood, I shouldn't wonder. He's a bit hasty. Still, what's done is done, can't be undone.
Well, what have you done?
Said Frodo, getting impatient with the slow unraveling of Butterbur's thoughts.
Where was I?
Said the landlord, pausing and snapping his fingers.
Ah, yes, old Gandalf. 3 months back, he walked right into my room without a knock. Barley, he says, I'm off in the morning. Will you do something for me? You've only a name to it. I said, I'm in a hurry, said he.
Oh, I don't know. Doing voices of people doing voices of other people is so hard. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what is Barley doing? What is Butterbur doing an impression of Gandalf sound like? I don't know, man. What the is this? Okay.
Yeah, old Gandalf. 3 months back, he walked right into my room without a knock. Barley, he says, I'm off in the morning. Will you do something for me? You've only to name it. I said, I'm in a hurry, said he, and I've got no time myself, but I want a message took to the Shire. Have you anyone you can send and trust to go? I could find someone. I said, tomorrow maybe, or the day after. Make it tomorrow, he says, and then he gave me a letter.
I'm not even sure that fucking passage made any goddamn sense. Okay.
It's dressed plain enough,
said Butterbur, producing a letter from his pocket and reading out the address slowly and proudly. He valued his reputation as a lettered man.
Mr. Frodo Baggins, Bag-End, Hobbiton, in the Shire.
Ah, a letter from me, from Gandalf,
cried Frodo.
Ah,
said Mr. Butterbur.
Then your right name is Baggins.
It is,
said Frodo, and you had better give me that letter at once, and explain why you never sent it. That's what you came to tell me, I suppose, though you've taken a long time to come to the point.
Poor Mr. Butterbird looked troubled.
You're right, master, he said, and I beg your pardon. I'm mortal afraid of what Gandalf will say if harm comes to it, but I didn't keep it back a purpose. I put it by the safe. Then I couldn't find nobody willing to go to the Shire next day, nor the day after, and none of my own folk were to spare. And then one thing after another drove it after my mind. I'm a busy man. I'll do what I can to set matters right, and if there's any help I can give, you've only to name it. Leaving a letter aside, I promised Gandalf no less. Barley, he says to me, this friend of mine from the Shire, he may be coming out of this way before long, him and another. He'll be calling himself Underhill, mind that. But you need ask no questions, and if I'm not with him, he may be in trouble, and he may need help. Do whatever you can for him, and I'll be grateful, he says. And here you are, and trouble's not far off, seemingly.
What do you mean? Asked Frodo.
These black men, said the landlord, lowering his voice. These black men, said the landlord, lowering his voice. They've looking for Baggins, and they mean well. I'm a hobbit. They're looking for Maggot. They're looking for Baggins, and if they mean well, then I'm a hobbit. I was on Monday, and all the dogs were yammering and the geese screaming. Uncanny, I called it. Nob, he came and told me that 2 black men were at the door asking for a hobbit named Baggins. Nob's hair was stood all on end. I bid the black fellows be off, and slammed the door on 'em, but they've been asking the same question all the way to Archie, I hear, and that Ranger, Strider, he's been asking questions too. Tried to get in here to see you before you had a bite or sup, he did.
He did. Sorry. He did, said Strider suddenly, coming forward into the light. And much trouble would have been... God, my voice has been fucked by Mr. Butterbur. And much trouble would have been saved if you had let him in, Barlaman. The landlord jumped with surprise.
You, he cried, you're always popping up. What do you want now?
He's here with my leave, said Frodo. He came to offer me his help.
Well, you know your own business, maybe, said Mr. Butterbur, looking suspiciously at Strider. But if I was in your plight, I wouldn't take up with a ranger.
Then who would you take up with? Asked Strider, a fat innkeeper who only remembers his own name because people shouted at him all day. They cannot stay in the pony forever. They cannot go home. They have a long road before them. Will you go with them and keep the black men off?
Me leave Bree? I wouldn't do that for any money, said Mr. Butterbur, looking real scared. But why can't you stay here for a bit, Mr. Underhill? What are all these strange goings on? What are these black men after? And where do they come from? I'd like to know.
I'm sorry, I can't explain it all, answered Frodo. I am tired and very worried, and it's a long tale. But if you mean to help me, I ought to warn you there will be danger as long as I am in your house. These black riders, I'm not sure, but I fear, they come from...
They come from Mordor, said Strider in a low voice. From Mordor, Barlaman, if that means anything to you.
Save us! Cried Mr. Butterbur, turning pale. The name evidently was known to him.
That is the worst news that has ever come to Bree in my time.
It is, said Frodo. Are you still willing to help me?
I am, said Mr. Butterbur, more than ever, though I don't know what the likes of me can do against,
he faltered. Against the shadow in the east, said Strider quietly. Not much, Barlaman, but every little helps. You can let Mr. Underhill stay here tonight as Mr. Underhill, and you can forget the name of Baggins till he is far away.
I'll do that, said Butterbur. But they'll find out he's here without help from me, I'm afraid.
It's a pity Mr. Baggins drew attention to himself this evening, to say no more. That story of Mr. Bilbo's going off has been heard before tonight in Bree. Even our Nob has been doing some guessing at his slow pate. There are others in Bree quicker in the uptake than he is. Well, we can only hope the riders won't come back yet, said Frodo. I hope not indeed, said Butterbur. But spooks and no spooks, they won't get in the pony so easy. Don't you worry till morning. Nor will say no word. No black man shall pass my doors. While I can stand on my legs, me and my folk will keep watch tonight, but you had best get some sleep if you can. In any case, we must be called at dawn, said Frodo. We must get off as early as possible. Breakfast at 6:30, please. Right, I'll see to the orders, said the landlord. Good night, Mr. Baggins. Underhill, I should say. Good night. Now, bless me. Where's your Mr. Prendybuck?
Man, with all these voices, like, I gotta clear my throat all the time.
I don't know, said Frodo with sudden anxiety. They had forgotten all about Merry, and it was getting late. I'm afraid he is out. He said something about going for a breath of air. Well, if you want to look after, and no if you do want looking after, and no mistake, your party might be on a holiday, said Butterbur. I must go and bar the doors quick, but I'll see if your friend is let in when he comes. I'd better send Nob to look for him. Good night to you all.
At last, Mr. Butterbur went out, and with another doubtful look at Strider. At last, Mr. Butterbur went out, with another doubtful look at Strider and a shake of his head. His footsteps retreated down the passage. Well, said Strider, when are you going to open that letter? Frodo looked carefully at the seal before he broke it. It seemed certainly to be Gandalf's. Inside, written in the wizard's strong but graceful script, was the following message. The Prancing Pony, Bree. No, I'm just kidding. The Prancing Pony, Bree, Mid-Year's Day, Shire Year, 1418. Time to do Gandalf's voice because I want to.
Dear Frodo, bad news has reached me here. I must go off at once. You had better leave Baggins soon and get out of the Shire before the end of July at latest. I'll return as soon as I can, and I will follow you if I find that you are gone. Leave a message for me here if you pass through Bree. You can trust the landlord, Butterbur. You may meet a friend of mine on the road, a man, lean, dark, tall, by some called Strider. He knows our business and will help you. Make for Rivendell. There I hope we may meet again. If I do not come, Elrond will advise you. Yours in haste, Gandalf. P.S. Do not use it again, for any reason whatever. Do not travel by night. P.P.S. Make sure that it is the real Strider. There are many strange men on the roads. His true name is Aragorn. All that gold does not glitter. Not all who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. P.P.P.S. I hope Butterbur sends this promptly. A worthy man, but his memory is like a lumber room. Thing wanted, always buried. If he forgets, I shall roast him. Farewell.
Frodo read the letter to himself, and then passed it to Pippin and Sam.
Really, old Butterbur has made a mess of things, he said. He deserves roasting. If I had got this at once, we might all have been safe in Rivendell by now. But what can have happened to Gandalf? He writes as if he was going into great danger.
He has been doing that for many years. He has been doing that for many years.
said Strider. Frodo turned and looked at him thoughtfully, wondering about Gandalf's second postscript. Why don't you tell me that you were Gandalf's friend at once? He asked. It would have saved time. Would I? Would any of you have believed me until now? Said Strider. I know nothing of this letter. For all I knew, I had to persuade you and to trust me without proofs. If I was to help you in any case, I did not intend to tell you about myself at once. I had to study you first and make sure of you. The enemy had set traps for me before now. As soon as I made up my mind, I was ready to tell you whatever you asked. But I must admit, he added with a strange laugh, but I must admit, he added with a strange laugh, that I hoped you would take to me for my own sake. A hunted man sometimes wearies of distrust and longs for friendship. But there, I believe my looks are against me. They are, at first sight at any rate, laughed Pippin, with sudden relief after reading Gandalf's letter. But handsome is as handsome does, as we say in the Shire. I dare say we shall all look much the same. I dare say we shall all look much the same after lying for days in hedges and ditches. It would take more than a few days, or weeks, or years of wandering into the wild to make you look like Strider, he answered. And you would die first, unless you are made of sterner stuff than you look to be. Pippin subsided, but Sam was not daunted, and he still eyed Strider dubiously. How do we know that you are the Strider that Gandalf speaks about? He demanded. You never mentioned Gandalf till this letter came out. You might be play-acting spy for all I can see, trying to get us to go with you. You might have done in the real Strider and took his clothes. Or you might have done in the real Strider and took his clothes. What might you have to say to that? That you are a stout fellow, answered Strider. But I am afraid my only answer to you, Sam Gamgee, is this. If I had killed the real Strider, I could kill you. And I should have killed you already without so much talk. If I was after the ring, I could have it now. If I was after the ring, I could have it now. He stood up and seemed suddenly to grow taller, and his eyes gleamed a light, keen and commanding. Throwing back his cloak, he laid his hand on the hilt of a sword that had hung concealed by his side. They did not dare to move. Sam sat wide-mouthed, staring at him dumbly. But I am the real Strider, fortunately, he said, looking down at his feet. Looking down at them with his face softened by a sudden smile. I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn. And if by life or death I can save you, I will. Aragorn, son of Arathorn. I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn. And if by life or death I can save you, I will. There was a long silence. At last Frodo spoke with hesitation. I believe that you were a friend before the letter came, he said. Or at least I wish to. You have frightened me several times tonight, but never in the way that servants of the enemy would. Or I so imagine. I think one of his spies would, seem fairer and feel fouler. Seem fairer and feel fouler, if you understand. I see, laughed Strider. I look foul and feel fair, is that it? All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. Did the verses apply to you, then? Asked Frodo. I could not make out what they were about. But how did you know that they were in Gandalf's letter, if you have never seen it? I did not know, he answered, but I am Aragorn, and those verses go with that name. He drew out his sword, and they saw that the blade was indeed broken, a foot below the hilt. Not much use as it is, Sam, said Strider. But the time is near when it shall be forged anew.
Sam said nothing.
Well, said Strider, with Sam's permission, we will all call... Fuck, man, sometimes it's hard to read and remember voices as I go. It's crazy how many... It's just... Ooh, so much mental juggling. This is hard. Well, said Strider, with Sam's permission, we will call that settled. Strider shall be your guide. And now, I think it is time you went to bed and took what rest you can. We shall have a rough road tomorrow. Even if you are allowed to leave Bree unhindered, we can hardly hope to leave it now unnoticed. But I shall try to get lost as soon as possible. I know 1 or 2 ways out of Breeland, other than the main road. If once we shake off the pursuit, I shall make for Weathertop. Weathertop, said Sam. What's that? It's a hill just to the north of the road, about a half away from here to Rivendell. It commands a wide view all around, and there we shall have a chance to look about us. Gandalf will make for that point. If he follows us, after Weathertop, our journey will become more difficult, and we shall have to choose between various dangers. When did you last see Gandalf? Asked Frodo. Do you know where he is, or what he is doing? Strider looked grave. I do not know, he said. I came west with him in the spring. I have often kept watch on the borders of the Shire in the last few years, when he was busy elsewhere. He seldom left it unguarded. We last met on the 1st of May at Sarn Ford, down the Brandywine. He told me that his business with you had gone well, and that you would be starting for Rivendell in the last week of September. And I knew he was at your side. I went away on a journey of my own, and that has proved ill, for plainly some news reached him, and I was not at hand to help. I am troubled for the first time since I have known him. We should have had messages, even if he could not come himself. When I returned many days ago, I heard ill news. The tidings had gone far and wide that Gandalf was missing, and the horsemen had been seen. It was the elven folk of Gildor that told me this, and later they told me that you had left your home, and there was no news of your leaving Buckland. I have been watching the East Road anxiously. Do you think these Black Riders have anything to do with it? With Gandalf's absence, I mean, asked Frodo. I do not know anything else that could have hindered him, except the enemy himself, said Strider. But do not give up hope. Gandalf is greater than you Shire folk. As a rule, you can only see his jokes and toys, but the business of ours will be his greatest task. Pippin yawned. Oh, I am sorry, he said, but I am deep tired. In spite of all the danger and worry, I must go to bed, or sleep where I sit. Where's that silly fellow Merry? It would be the last straw if we had to go out in the dark to look for him. At that moment, oh, dude, there's so much phlegm in my throat. It's pissing me the fuck off. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking Gatorade. Maybe it's making it worse. Stop throat, please. It's like no matter what I do, there's just gunk. At that moment, they heard a door slam. Then feet came running along the passage. Mary came in with a rush, followed by Nob. He shut the door hastily and leaned against it. He was out of breath. They stared at him in alarm for a moment before he gasped. I've seen 'em, Frodo. I've seen 'em. The Black Riders. Black Riders? Cried Frodo. Where? Here, in this village. I stayed indoors for an hour. Then, as you did not come back, I went out for a stroll. I had come back again, and was standing just outside the light of the lamp, looking at the stars. Suddenly I shivered, and felt that something horrible was creeping near. There was a sort of deeper shade among the shadows across the road, just beyond the edge of the lamplight. It slid away at once into the dark without a sound. There was no horse. Which way did it go? Asked Strider, suddenly and sharply. Mary started, noticing the stranger for the first time. Go on, said Frodo. This is a friend of Gandalf's. I'll explain later.
It seemed to make up the road eastward, continued Mary. I tried to follow, of course. I vanished almost at once, but I went around the corner and on as far as the last house on the road. Strider looked at Mary with wonder. You have a stout heart, he said, but it was foolish. I don't know, said Mary. I don't know, said Mary. Neither brave nor silly, I think. I could hardly help myself. I seemed to be drawn somehow. Anyway, I went and suddenly I heard voices by the edge. One was muttering, the other was whispering or hissing. I couldn't hear a word that was said. I did not creep closer, because I began to tremble all over. Then I felt terrified. I turned back and was just going to bolt home when suddenly something came behind me and I fell over. I found him, sir, put in Nob. Mr. Butterbur sent me out with a lantern. I went down to Westgate and then back up towards Southgate, just nigh Bill Ferny's house. I thought I could see something in the road. I couldn't swear to it, but it looked to me as if two men were stooping over something, lifting it. I gave a shout, but when I got up to the spot, there was no signs of him, and only Mr. Brandybuck lying by the roadside. He seemed to be asleep. I thought I'd fallen into deep water, he says to me, when I shook him. Very strange he was, and as soon as I had roused him, he got up and ran back here like a hare. I'm afraid that's true, said Mary, though I don't know what I said. I had an ugly dream, and I can't remember. I went to pieces. I don't know what came over me. I do, said Strider. The black breath. The riders must have left their horses outside and passed back through the south gate in secret. They will know all the news now. They have visited Bill Ferny, and probably that southerner was a spy as well. Something may happen in the night, before we leave Bree. What will happen? Said Mary. Will they attack the inn? No, I think not, said Strider. They're not here yet, and in any case, that is not their way. In dark and loneliness, they are strongest. They will not openly attack a house where there are lights and many people, not until they are desperate. Not while all the long leagues of Eredor lie before us. But Eriador still lie before us. Not while all the long leagues of Eriador still lie before us. But their power is in terror, and already some in Bree are in their clutch. They will drive these wretches to some evil work. Ferny and some of the strangers, and maybe the gatekeeper too. They had words with Harry at the west gate on Monday. I was watching them. He was white and shaking when they left him. We seem to have enemies all around, said Frodo. What are we to do? Stay here, and do not go to your rooms. They are sure to have found out which those are. The hobbit rooms will have windows looking north and close to the ground. We will all remain together and bar this window and the door. But first, Nob and I will fetch your luggage. While Strider was gone, Frodo gave Mary a rapid account of all that had happened since supper. Mary was still reading and pondering Gandalf's letter when Strider and Nob returned. Well, masters, said Nob, I've ruffled up the clothes and put in a bolster down the middle of each bed, and I made a nice imitation of your head with a brown woolen mat, Mr. Underhill, sir, he added with a grin. Pippin laughed. Very lifelike, he said. But what will happen when they have penetrated the disguise? We shall see, said Strider. Let's hope to hold the fort till morning. Good night to you. No, good night to you, said Nob, and he went off to take his part in the watch on the doors. Their bags and gear they piled on the parlor floor. They pushed a low chair against the door and shut the window. Peering out, Frodo saw that the night was still clear. The sickle was swinging bright. The hobbit's name for plow or great bear. Oh, the sickle is a constellation. The sickle was swinging bright above the shoulders of Bree Hill. He then closed and barred the heavy inside shutters and drew the curtains together. Strider built up the fire and blew out all the candles. The hobbits lay down on their blankets with their feet towards the hearth, but Strider settled himself in the chair against the door. They talked for a little, for Mary still had several questions to ask. "Jump over the moon?" chuckled Mary as he rolled himself into his blanket. "Very ridiculous of you, Frodo, but I wish I had been there to see. The worthies of Bree will be discussing it for 100 years hence." "I hope so. I hope so," said Strider. "Oh, I wish I had been. The worthies of Bree will be discussing it for 100 years hence." "I hope so," said Strider. And they all fell silent, and one by one the hobbits dropped off to sleep. Chapter 10 completed. Whew. That was a good one. I am tired. Man, it is, I try my hardest to just keep going steady. You know what I mean? I try my hardest to keep going steady. And I gotta say, it's difficult. It's very difficult. It's like, oh man, very difficult. My hair looks ridiculous. Who cares? I'm done. Oh, well, that was a good read, was it not? Maybe not good, but it was a read. We made it through the 2 chapters, hour and 40 minutes. And the stream is still going. It did not end randomly in the middle, which is great news. Fantastic news. So we should be good to go. Oh, anyone there? Any comments? No words? There's kind of a delay. I'm going to stand up and stretch. I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone there. That's too bad. Okay, well, I'm going to keep doing this anyways, every Monday. So, if anyone is here, make sure to come back next week. All right? Make sure to come back next week, because I'll do this every damn week. Do you understand? Oh, sorry. One viewer. Nobody gives a fuck about William. Isn't that too tragic? Okay. Yeah, whatever. See you guys. Farewell. Adios. Where's the end stream button? There it is.